Have you ever been at like, let's say 20% capacity in terms of what you're able to take on, but your family was approaching you, or your job, or your significant other was approaching you as if you had 100% capacity? A lot of it's because our internal gauge, so to speak, it's not always apparent. It's not always easy to see. And I'll be really honest, sometimes we don't always see it. We can be really honest. So I want to talk about how can we externalize this very internal experience so that we can communicate better with all those that are in our lives. So welcome back. I'm Virginia, a licensed mental health therapist who was recently diagnosed with not one, but two autoimmune disorders. So I want to explore some of that with you, and I'll be really honest. As I'm taking some time to explore some of this with you, I have to also recognize in myself that it's like, you know what, sometimes we don't always know what's going on with us. So how do we share that with those that are in our lives? So recently, if you've been following my channel, you know that I had a test that was coming up, and this test required my complete capacity, and it required a lot of attention that I needed to just take care of myself. I thought I could keep working like telework and then also try to do this test. If you want to see the video for that, I'll try to remind myself to put it in the description box below. Hopefully I will. So just in case if you wanted to see a little bit more on how that day went. So a lot of times we don't always know what our own capacity is. And so one of the things I think that is the easiest way to start to know that, because a lot of people tend to be really good at knowing when they're good and knowing when they're in crisis. And a lot of times we don't know about this in between spot when we're not doing the best, when we're almost at that place where we're getting ready to, as my kids say, crash out. Okay. So how does that look? I think part of how that looks for me, that seems like is the easiest for me when I'm talking to couples that I'm working with, when I'm talking to individuals working with trauma, is okay, what do you look like when you're in crisis? What are those things that you tend to notice about you that are off or wrong? And so some of those things that tends to happen for a lot of folks when they're in crisis is, and again, everybody's looks a little different. If it's mental health wise, like I'll hear people say anything from having suicidal thoughts to calling in frequent from work to having frequent arguments with folks. Like that's that zone where it's like we are not doing well at all. Or sometimes there's that hyperarousal where we've got a lot of angsty, anger, anxiety, kind of heart racing experience. Or sometimes we'll do the opposite. I've heard people say when they're in crisis, they're despondent. They're at a place where they're like, yeah, whatever. They're just going through the motions. They're in robot mode. They're just going to take care of the things that they need to take care of, but they're not all there. So those are signs that people on the outside can see in us that let us know that we're in crisis. How do I know that I'm in crisis? So part of how I know that I'm in crisis, I have to take a look at it from a mental health standpoint, but I also have to take a look at it from the standpoint of just my physical health. When I'm in crisis, what does it look like? A lot of times when we take a look at crisis, it's very easy to go in and judge ourselves. So I have a lot of clients that say things like, oh, I'm not in crisis. And so some of the denial with just that we're even in crisis is because it can feel like failure. But here's the thing, we don't always get to choose our crises. We don't get to choose it. You know, I had moments in time where my crisis was I wasn't emotionally feeling like I wasn't doing well, but I know that in the evening, sometimes my blood pressure was dropping to 85/55. And I couldn't do anything except go to sleep. That's crisis. Okay? So there are going to be some signs that sometimes your body gives you. There's going to be signs that sometimes mental health wise that'll come up for you. Some of my clients, when they're in crisis, they're not sleeping at night. They're consistently forgetful. They're missing big things, big deadlines, or they're so stuck in almost kind of like this paralysis place where they're not able to get their work done at work. So that's what sometimes crisis looks like What does maintenance look like? So maintenance is the things that we do to keep ourselves healthy. And so a lot of times people feel like, well, what are you talking about? If I'm good, I'm just good. There ain't nothing I got to do about that, Virginia. And I say, not quite. If we want to stay good and if we want to make sure that we're expanding those times, there are things that we do to keep ourselves in like the green zone. So I would call crisis red. Green zone is like our maintenance. This is where hopefully a place that if you're not living there, eventually that's where you're living. This is the place where emotionally you feel good. You're good in all of your relationships. There's not a lot of chaos going on. If there's some sort of disagreement, you're able to figure it out relatively quickly. You can get upset. You can feel all of your feelings. That again, that maintenance place, we can deal with some stressors, but still get things done, feel productive, feel successful. We can feel sad, we can feel down, but we feel like it's reasonable and we're able to kind of walk through those emotions. And so that's kind of like that maintenance place. And so, then we have to take a look at, okay, what do we do to keep ourselves in maintenance? I know for me, some of the things I do to keep myself in maintenance is I sleep really well. Like, I have so many friends and colleagues that make fun of me because they're like, yep, well, Virginia sleep already. She'll have to see these text messages in the morning. And it's true because I don't play about my sleep. Okay? I don't play about my sleep. So, sleep is something that I make sure that I guard and protect, making sure that I have really balanced meals throughout the day. And so when I say really balanced, I'm not hyper, I don't know, obsessive over the food that I eat. But what I am doing is I'm making sure that I have things that I know that are going to sustain me throughout the day versus like grabbing like a bag of cookies or a bag of chips and calling it bag of chips dinner or calling a box of cookies or a box of crackers dinner. And if I just step on any toes, I'm so sorry. I'm not intentionally trying to do it. I'm just trying to say, this is what I know what maintenance looks like for me. Okay. If I'm not in maintenance and I'm in kind of that yellow zone, that place where I'm not at the best capacity, some of the ways that I know that I am there is if I find myself repeating myself. If I find myself dropping things like missing meetings, being late, those are signs for me that's like, ooh, you may not be doing the best. You may think that you're okay, girl, but you may not be doing the best. If I'm irritable, like if somebody's talking to me and I'm like, that's a sign for me that, and again, this is not a place of shame. This is just a place of knowing and observation to start finding out, like, okay, what is it that my body needs now? Okay. So all of this is not to find a new way to put more shame on ourselves. This is a place of empowerment where we can start to know our bodies so that we can communicate with those that we love and we care about the most. Okay. So, again, back to the situation that I had earlier this week where I was really upset. I really felt like I was going to let my clients down. I was like, I don't know what to do here. What am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? And I completely forgot before I shift onto that. If you want some tips in terms of like how to have a slower, better morning, I do have a couple videos about that as well that you can definitely check out. I'm going to try to remember to put that in the description box. So, but earlier this week, like I said, I had too much on my plate, but I thought, I'm in green, I'm doing well, I know what I'm doing. And the yellow kind of snuck up on me because the test that I needed to do was more involved than what I thought it was. And it snuck up on me, and it was embarrassing to notice. And embarrassing in the sense that I didn't necessarily feel embarrassed in front of other people, but I felt embarrassed by myself. I'm like, you're a therapist. You've been working on this. You've been readjusting. Why are you still missing it, girl? Why? And so I had to take a look at myself with a little bit more humanity and a little bit more care. That sometimes this sneaks up on us. It sneaks up on all of us. Even for a therapist who's been in the field for about 20 years now, it sneaks up on us, and definitely snuck up on me. So I had to make some adjustments based upon my body's needs because I wasn't in green like I thought I was. I was actually in yellow. And so I needed more sleep. I needed more time to take care of myself and my body. I didn't need to add extra things. By doing that, when you know what zone that you're in, then you can start to communicate that to your loved ones. You can say things like, hey, I'm in the yellow zone right now. I'm not doing my best. I'm definitely not at my worst. But there's going to be some things that I'm not going to be able to do. There's going to be some ways that I'm going to need to kind of adjust some things because of just where I'm at. I've seen people do this in the workplace where I've seen multiple people quit at one time. People are burning out, y'all. Left and right, people are burning out. Multiple people quit at one time and everything fall on one person. And that person has had to share their capacity to their superiors, and not in a entitled, snarky kind of way, but in this sense of just saying, hey, I understand that this is what y'all want me to do. I am not going to be able to do my job to the best of my ability. My timeline is going to be a lot longer than what it normally is. And just sharing that capacity at work, if that's a safe place for you to be able to do so. Because I do get it. Some people are working in spaces where it's not safe to share that. You could lose your job. Then I think we need to also start taking a look at, where are we working? Where are we working? And are we putting ourselves in a path where we are going to, as the kids say, crash out, or we are going to burn out? Maybe for the second and the third and the eighth time. And I have seen folks go from one job to the next job to the next job and just burn out, burn out, burn out, burn out, burn out. We have got to take a look at why. We've got to take a look at the pattern that we are recreating, regardless of where we go. So when we're in that yellow zone, starting to communicate that. This morning, I had another yellow zone moment for myself. My kids ended up, they're really hormonal right now. They had some different things that's going on in their lives. And they got into it a little bit this morning. And then my husband got into it. And I kept trying to intervene. And it just kept blowing up into something else. I'm like, oh my God, please, everybody, please. So by the time that everything finally started to calm down, I just ran out of time. And they were like, oh, aren't you going to go to the store and go get all these things that we need? And I was like, you know what? I can't drive right now. And I'm laughing saying that because it sounds crazy. Like, what do you mean you can't drive? Of course you can drive. When I am highly emotional and I'm upset, that is not a good time for me to drive. So I literally just, over the years, I've bumped into things, I've knocked things over, so it is just a known thing in the family that if Virginia is getting upset, she will just take some time. She will take a timeout and she's just not going to drive. She just needs to calm down. And so I know my family probably thought that, okay, this is a really awful time for you to be doing that. But I just don't have the capacity to be a safe driver right now. I will in a little bit. This is not a medical thing. It's not because I'm so dizzy or because my blood pressure is too low right now. It literally is an emotional capacity thing. I am too upset to be able to focus and to be a safe driver. And I want to be a safe driver. So I waited. I gave myself some time, kind of caught my breath a little bit, was able to shift activities. The family was able to kind of shift a little bit. And I think everybody almost kind of saw that as an invitation for everybody to be able to take a break. We all needed to take a break. And we all need to take some time to regulate. And so we did that. After we did that, I went on ahead and moved on about the rest of the activities that I had for that day. But that's something that happens on the regular here just because of my, not only just some of the work that I've been doing with myself, but also some of the work that I've been doing just in trying, in times, blah, 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 rewind, in terms of just trying to change how I parent, because I needed to parent in a way that fits best for my kid's nervous system, and just trying to learn and improve on the things from the generations before me. And so if you've not seen my video about super feelers, I'll try to, again, y'all, I'm going to try to remember these things and put them in the description box below for y'all to check that out. But I'm a recovering healing mom. And so very early, I had to start implementing timeout to me because I needed some time to be able to calm down and to step away. And so I wanted to make sure that that was something that was seen as normal. That was something that was happening on the regular, so that way it didn't seem weird or odd. So when I told my family this morning, I said, I'm not going to be a safe driver. I'm too upset to drive. Everybody just kind of understood it because this is something that has been built in terms of the language into our family. So you may want to find some words that work for you, for your family, for your partner, for your kids, that not only that you can use, but also that they can use too. So that gives them permission. Everybody needs permission to be in the yellow zone. Everybody does. If you're in a spot and you're listening to this and you're thinking, you know what, Virginia, this sounds really great. Can you tell my partner this? Can you tell my kids this? They need to just communicate to me they're in the yellow zone. My partner needs to just communicate they're in the yellow zone. My boss needs to just communicate that they're in the yellow zone. I say, I am so sorry. That's not quite how it works. We do the modeling for ourselves. We do our modeling for the relationship, but that doesn't also necessarily guarantee that others are going to do it. My husband, love him to pieces. When he is in the yellow zone, he does not know he's in the yellow zone. His tone shifts and changes. He starts repeating himself. I repeat myself when I'm in the yellow zone too. So definitely this is not any shade at him. His tone shifts and changes. He starts getting more, no, this is the way that it is and there's no other way. And I'm like, ooh, I have felt that in my nervous system before. I definitely do that too when I'm in that yellow zone, or definitely when I'm in the red zone for sure. And so the more that I tried to tell him, hey, honey, are you upset? No, I'm fine. It's like, well, okay, that didn't work. Or I'll try the therapist route. Well, I'm noticing that your tone shifted, or I'm noticing this, or, I just noticed just over the years, it just doesn't tend to work. And so we have had to come up with things that work better for us. And so one of the things that I have noticed for my husband is that sometimes that nonverbal communication, it just speaks louder than words. And so when I hear my husband's tone shift, when I see that he's like, absolutely, this is the only way, there's no other way, I know that he's out of his window of tolerance. I just know he is. And I've tried talking to him about it. I've tried convincing him. I've tried, being all scientific about it. None of it has worked. And really, honestly, because that's something he has to be able to find within himself. So if you're listening to this and you're trying to find a way to convince somebody that you love or care about that that's where they are, I'm here to tell you that that's not super helpful. It just usually comes across as critical and judgy. So the best way that we can learn and shift that in our relationships is by changing it within ourselves and by speaking that out loud, not in the sense of hoping that they would change or forcing them to change or manipulating them to change, but just because that creates better communication for everybody. So but when my husband is in that spot and I see that for him, one of the things that I start to take a look at is like, okay, what is his body needing right now? He's out of his window of tolerance. He cannot communicate that right now. He doesn't have words for it. He doesn't have words for it because this is something that he never has learned even when he was little. This is something he doesn't have now. And so that's not my job to go in and try to teach him. I'm his wife. I'm his wife. And I'm saying this because different people, when you interact with them, your response to them is going to be a little bit different depending upon your responsibility in that relationship. My relationship is not as some sort of superior. My relationship is his wife, his helper, his partner. And so I start taking a look at some needs that he has. And when I say take a look at needs, I'm not talking about being like, oh, I'm walking on eggshells and I'm trying to figure out all the things that he can calm down. I'm not doing that. I have done that. Not doing that. But what I do is I start taking a look at some things that just as a wife, in terms of ways that I can show my love and care for him. And so ways that I can do that is just through acts of service. And the number one thing is when he's out of his window of tolerance, and this is true for anybody. So regardless of who it is, sometimes people just need a break. So just giving people some time to be upset, let them have a break. Everybody needs a break. And then I start taking a look at like, okay, what are some immediate needs? So a lot of times, sometimes arguments happen right before dinner. And I'm like, oh, he hasn't eaten anything. And so sometimes if I ask him in the heat of the moment, hey, you want to eat something? No, I don't want anything to eat. Well, I get that. His nervous system doesn't want anything to eat in that moment. And so what I'll do is I'm like, okay. But I know that evening I'm going to just make sure that I'm just loving him well and that he has something that he's going to find tasty and enjoyable. And so I'll just make it for him, and maybe I'll just put it in the microwave, make his plate, put him in the microwave for him. So he can get it whenever he wants to. Or if he's like, I'm not eating anything, I'm just going to put it up. Just let him know, hey, look, if you change your mind, dinner's in the fridge, just want to give you the heads up. And I give him his space to be able to be himself. Or sometimes, like, I'll notice, like, if we've been doing a lot of running, my husband gets overstimulated. Again, he's never put words to this before. I can't force my words on him. If he's overstimulated, sometimes I'll just ask him, just almost like a multiple choice, be like, hey, we had Father's Day that just came up. We just went on a really great trip together. I knew he was a little overstimulated. We had a great time, but I knew he was a little overstimulated. So I was like, hey, what do you want to do for Father's Day? He's like, I'll get back to you. And I'm like, I know what that means. He wants a very simple day. He wants to take a nap. He wants to do absolutely nothing. And you know what we did? I made that man his favorite foods. He took a nap. We played like one of his favorite movies. He fell asleep through almost the whole movie. And he was like, that was such a happy Father's Day. It was simple, but it was what his nervous system needed. He was in yellow. Another thing that I tend to notice from my husband when he is in that yellow zone is sometimes he needs to just have some time engaged in one of his hobbies. He loves sports. He's a big sports guy. And so sometimes it's like, you know what? The game is on. This is not the time to be trying to talk about something. Let that man watch his game. And so I intentionally am like, you know what? I'm going to put a cork in it. We're going to revisit this conversation in just a little bit. When I say a little bit, maybe the next day. I don't have this panic in my relationship. And if you do, I get it. I feel that for you. And my hope is that you will be able to develop a little bit more security in your relationship and that both of you will be in a place where things are not so anxious, where it's a little bit more secure. So, but our relationship is secure. And so I'm like, you know what? It's okay that he's upset. He's watching his game. He is having a good time. I'm going to make sure he has a couple of snacks and things. And I'm going to let him do his thing. And that's okay. That's okay. And a lot of times he'll come back around and say, hey, I know I was a little off. Or, hey, I know I came down kind of harsh or something like that. He'll usually kind of come back around when he's ready. But again, these tips are going to be a little bit different depending upon where you are in your relationship. If it's my kids and they're in that place and they're in the yellow zone, a lot of times they don't have words for it either. I have been their mom. I've been able to walk with them in developing language for that. So they have more words for that spot. They're also both girls. So they've been socialized to have more words for what yellow looks like for them. And so sometimes when my kids are just kind of feeling yellow, they'll say things like, I'm going to my room, or I'm going to go read a book. Or they'll say things like, I need you to leave me alone. And usually they're not telling me that they need to leave me alone. They're saying that to each other. Or they'll say, I need to go outside. So I'm like, okay. And so I'll say, are you a little irritated right now? Well, yes, I need a break. I'm like, okay. So they definitely have more words for that. And again, girls in the United States, we're socialized to have more words for that spot. So take a look at, hopefully I have said something that's helpful to you just in terms of being able to notice what that yellow zone looks like. Usually crisis is really easy. Usually maintenance is easy, but that yellow zone tends to be a mystery spot for so many of us. And a lot of it's because we don't have words for it. We don't have words for it. We don't know what we're experiencing. And so, if any of this has been helpful for you, I do ask that at this time you would take some time to subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be talking more about this yellow zone. I'm also going to be talking about like preparation for how do you prep and get yourself guarded against burnout. I'm seeing so many people burn out left and right now. It just seems like it's an epidemic right now of burnout. So, but these are some of the things that I'm going to be talking about. I talk about marriage, I talk about parenting, talk about chronic illness. So, if any of these topics are relatable to you or things that you would find helpful in your life, like I said, I do ask that you would take that time to subscribe to my channel. My name is Virginia. I'm a licensed mental health therapist. Thank you so much for your time with me today. And I really hope that you do something to take really good care of yourself and take care of those that are in your life. Till next time.